The air inside the substation hangs heavy, thick with ozone and the ghost of old nicotine. Dust motes dance in the weak glow from a single bare bulb, illuminating the hand-labeled vinyl sleeves stacked against a dead server rack. The faint hum of the war surplus transmitter feels like a low, steady heartbeat, a metallic taste lingering on the tongue.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
In Potts Point, we're reading 49 degrees Fahrenheit with clear. Wind check, west at 11 miles an hour. This week, Global Lens announced Echoes of the Great Lakes, a sprawling docuseries on Rwanda, produced by an international crew. It's set to bring Rwandan history to millions, but the local film community, particularly the Kigali Filmmakers Collective, feels bypassed. It's a trade-off, broad exposure for their complex story, but without the deep roots of local creative control. We're looking at who gets to hold the camera, and whose lens defines the narrative.
Exactly. Global Lens's chosen move to produce Echoes of the Great Lakes with an international crew, while offering broad exposure, structurally positions Rwandan filmmakers as content providers rather than primary storytellers. This default path means local creative control remains secondary. A viable alternative for Rwanda's National Narrative Fund, however, would be to mandate 75% local crew and director participation for any internationally backed project seeking state support, ensuring provenance from conception. This directly addresses the current exposure of local talent being bypassed.
From that dossier to this one, nearly 1,500 properties bought using Australia's first home.
Or better yet, the Kigali Filmmakers Collective could initiate a provenance project using the gig passport mesh. Imagine every independent venue and rehearsal home within the mesh, acting as a hub for locally produced digital stories, with digital passport stamps verifying authenticity. It's about building an architecture of consent for content, giving creators direct access to audiences, not just waiting for the Global Lens spotlight. Who carries the story next is critical for its authenticity.
The neon tube flickers, the color of a wound that won't close, and the room holds its breath for a second. Got a call holding on the line now. This sounds like the boundary keeper we've heard from before. Go ahead, you're on TogeeVision. Patching in a caller, the boundary keeper. You're on the signal.
Togee, I hear your point about narrative ownership, but what's the tangible evidence that these local voices are actually suppressed? Where are the numbers from the Kigali Collective showing concrete loss beyond just a feeling? I need data, not just an implied slight.
That's a fair challenge, boundary keeper. The tangible evidence often sits in the contracts, or the lack thereof, for local crew, and the persistent difficulty Indigenous filmmakers face securing funding compared to externally backed projects. For instance, last year, only 15% of the national film budget allocated for cultural representation actually went to independent Rwandan studios, the rest absorbed by co-productions with foreign entities. It's not just feelings. It's resource allocation, it's dignity in labor, and structural disadvantage.
A faint crackle from the antenna, Kalen taps it with a rhythmic beat. And that structural disadvantage extends to basic infrastructure too. If we can't fund our own cameras, our own editing suites, our own lesson planner workshops for new talent, then we're always reliant on someone else's gear, someone else's script. Building our own means asserting our own value from the ground up, moving beyond being just a location for foreign productions.
From the narrative architecture of Rwanda, we pivot to Australia's housing market, where the rules of access are being bent for profit. Nearly 1,500 properties bought using Australia's first home buyers' 5% deposit scheme have been converted into investment properties. This scheme, designed to help owner-occupiers avoid mortgage insurance, is now fueling landlord portfolios.
This exposes a significant flaw in policy design. The concrete fact is that a government scheme intended to assist first-time buyers with a 5% deposit now directly enables investors, compromising the integrity of housing affordability. The initial chosen next move by the government was to implement the first home loan deposit scheme without strict long-term occupancy clauses. A viable alternative would be to introduce a mandatory 7-year owner occupancy period, with clawback provisions on the deposit guarantee if the property is rented out or sold before that term, thereby protecting the scheme's intent and genuinely assisting struggling new homeowners.
Exactly. This isn't just about financial instruments, it's a cultural erosion of the idea of home. When a scheme for first homes becomes a backdoor for investors, it redefines the domestic space as pure commodity. Imagine a community land trust model, where the land itself is held in common, permanently affordable, with housing built on top. This creates an architecture of shared equity, ensuring the original intent of affordable housing carries through generations, not just a single transaction for a quick flip.
Patching in the Market Whisperer on the line. What's your take, Whisperer? Patching in a caller. Go ahead.
My question is, who exactly bears the cost of this conversion? Is it merely symbolic, or are there real economic impacts on the average Australian trying to get into the market beyond just moral outrage? What's the dollar figure attached to this policy loophole?
It's far from symbolic, Whisperer. The direct cost is borne by genuine first-time buyers who face increased competition and artificially inflated prices in an already tight market. With nearly 1,500 properties pulled out of owner-occupier stock, this reduces supply for those who need it most. Experts at the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute estimate that each conversion adds an average of $20,000 to the entry cost for a comparable first home in desirable areas, effectively subsidizing investor profits at public expense.
The hidden cost is also the system's trust. If the rules are this easily bent, the civic architecture around housing becomes a game of loopholes. A playable next step here involves a proof of occupancy digital ledger attached to the property title, requiring annual verification from the primary resident, making it impossible to quietly convert without triggering penalties. That's how you build systems that favor original intent.
From the architecture of housing, we shift across the globe to the UK political landscape, where the very foundations of dignity and consent are being tested by past actions. Jewish leaders in the UK have turned down a meeting with a Conservative council candidate, Robert Greene, who was previously jailed for anti-Semitism. This refusal underscores a deep-seated tension between political rehabilitation and community trust.
The concrete facts expose a significant ethical challenge for the Conservative Party, who selected Robert Greene as a candidate despite his past conviction and jail time for sending anti-Semitic emails. This action by the party is their chosen next move, signaling a perceived leniency towards such offenses. This exposes Jewish community leaders to the burden of defending their dignity against political expediency. A clear alternative for the Conservative Party would be to implement an independent, transparent vetting panel for all candidates, with zero tolerance for hate crime convictions, ensuring that public office is not granted to individuals without demonstrable long-term commitment to community reconciliation, which Robert Greene has not yet shown to the Jewish leadership's satisfaction.
We have the Sentinel on the line. Sentinel, what's your insight on the cost here? Sentinel, the cost of meeting without genuine preconditions would be the erosion of the Jewish community's structural self-worth. By refusing, the leaders are asserting that trust, especially on issues of anti-Semitism, must be earned through demonstrable change, not simply requested for political optics. The practical impact is a clear boundary. Reconciliation isn't a negotiation tactic, it's a process built on provenance and dignity. This choice pushes the Conservative Party to reconsider their vetting process more seriously than any dialogue might achieve, signaling that the burden of repair lies with the offender and those who enable them. Cool down is when habits set. Swap the tiresome combo for a clean two-step people want to repeat.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.